Bull and the Zed, two of the best champions that Balls and High can be on. And we're about to see what the first bans are and see if Coast has done their homework.
Yeah, I mean, even though Charlie has the last say, you can still see Lemonation has input. He's got his notebook still. Has not lost his identity.
Maybe it's Blink, though. Maybe he's just...
Speaking of, I don't think it's Blake. He's not
doesn't want to
faking it.
lose credibility.
There's top-tier bands, though, what you're talking about. All of these top-tier bands so far. These are pretty much just across the board. Extremely strong right now. There's the Rumble for Balls. Aren't going to see that one come out. Now, the Zed, though, for High is always really important as well, but ManCloud does play it.
Yeah.
He did get solo killed and then went 0-3 versus TSM with the Zed, but still could just first pick that one away if they don't decide to ban it.
That early part of the laning phase, he was giving it to Bjergsen. Bjergsen was down in CS when Coast was facing TSM, but once they turn it around, TSM was able to really shut down ManCloud. So if he can get that good early game again, and he can get something he can 1v1 on, maybe ManCloud can put those kills on the team like Coast is looking for. They need an early game start, because the late game is something it looks like the teams already have on top of Coast right now.
And I think one of the things that could give them that early game start is a strong jungle champion for Impaler. Either the Rek'Sai or the Rengar, I think, should be fairly high priority for Team Coast. And Cloud9 with the Hecarim ban. Now, Hecarim, people have recently been seeing it in Asia in the top lane. However, this has been around in North American solo queue for a very long time, ever since Keen came over, basically. So all of the top laners on all these teams from North America do play top lane Hecarim. We just haven't seen it in the North American LCS yet because the coaches have not given them leave to pick it.
It's been so great in the PTL highlights. Definitely a sight to see the horse coming in with home guard sometimes. So all 6 bans on the board. That Vhagar, as we said, does get hit out. Lemonation won't be causing trouble with that in the bottom lane, but Morgana is first picked here. Pretty high priority put towards that. Could be going to Sheep, could be going to Chris.
Yeah, she's really risen in priority with the importance of picks and the mid-game bindings. Also, it's a really good first pick. You can flex it up to the top lane, even mid lane if you really wanted to from the support. But Cloud9, all according to plan here. Maokai is the go-to tank up in the top lane. He is the most reliable, really hard to push out of lane, doesn't have really bad matchups, and can flex really easily into 2 versus 1 lane swaps. So all around, Maokai just fills so many roles for a team. Very easy pickup here for Cloud9. And there's the Rek'Sai that I was looking for. They actually take it away from Team Coast. So Impaler will not get to go back to that champion. And Meteos gets to play that global game where he can, even in the late game, help Cloud9 out with their rotations across the map and swap objectives very quickly.
Doesn't actually have too many plays on it because it's either being banned out or taken in the game. But we're going to see good map pressure coming in from Cloud9, like you said, with that pickup in the jungle. On the side now of Coast, they decide to go Gnar into the top lane. Kind of been put to the wayside lately, but it is going to be Chris trying his hand back at that. And Graves for Mash.
Yep, so remember, this is post-nerf Gnar. A bit harder to work around Mega Gnar form. You are exhausted for longer after. You don't get the form Prez as long. So this is really going to test the team coordination here from Team Coast. And we'll see if they can actually work around that Gnar bar. Because Cloud9 are so good at avoiding fights that they should not take.
That's definitely something that they have as a key priority. Cloud9 in fight phase in general, how they take it, the mechanics of their fights, and whether or not to be in that fight. Braum picked up once again for Lemonation. This will be a second time consecutively for him. He's been liking that.
This is something that people have not really been pointing out recently, but Braum has really risen in priority, especially with Lemonation. It provides so much zone control for those mid-game team fights. The Braum ultimate, not only with the knockup, but that leaving behind the long line of slow just enables you to have really, really good team fights inside the jungle, where basically Braum's ult can fill up an entire corridor.
Looks like Jarvan will be what Impaler goes with on this. The hover back and forth. Little crowd pump. Always got to love it. Haven't seen Syndra in quite a while. May get this lock in, and ManCloud is going to be putting some Syndra on the board here as we get into week 6 of the NALCS, and Impaler will take Jarvan.
Syndra's still very strong in the late game. They have a lot of long-range skill shot here from Team Coast. You can pick people with either Syndra or Morgana. So if Coast can get control of vision
Boom.
and lure Cloud9 into their area, then they can easily set up some plays off of those long-range CC abilities. Cloud9, now there is the Zed that we were looking for. Hai does not hesitate to pick it up. This is Syndra post-nerf as well. Damage reduced on her Qs a lot early.
Right.
So people have been starting W for level 1 harass. Also, there have been improvements to the collision with her stun. So we'll see if that works out for ManCloud, because it's been a little bit rough to work with previously.
So we have 30 seconds on the clock as both teams kind of round out what they want to get out of these compositions. We continuously see Cloud9 go with this Corki for Sneaky. That usually pushes them, not pushes them, but they'll take the 2v1. They'll leave an easy lane for Sneaky.
Yeah, and I don't see any reason for Cloud9 not to go 2 versus 1 in this matchup either, because they've got the Maokai. He can easily start that side camp very quickly and get to lane still. Plus, Corki want to get to that level 6 as quickly as possible. Coming in for the hugs. Corki get to that level 6 as quickly as possible for the Rockets. And then Cloud9 are so good. As soon as Sneaky has his Trinity Force, they start forcing objectives.
Well, we'll see if those objectives can be forced. Knowing Gnar is also good in the 2v1, we'll see how Chris fares. We're going to be checking in to see how the fan vote stands throughout this game. So send hashtag CST win or hashtag C9 win to add LOL Esports. And we are about to start off week 6 to get on the Rift. It is Team Coast versus Cloud9. And the crowd is more than ready to get into the matchup. As we know, Cloud9 did get the first win in these two matching up back in week 3. Coast would love revenge.
Yes, they would. So coming out of it right here on level 1. Now, Morgana, you always got to worry about Morgana for level 1 invades just because she can take binding early. But Braum is such a beast level 1 as well, just because of the spammable slow and the stun you can get from the passive. So he really brings 2 forms of CC to that level 1 fight. And they are meeting up pretty early here. Let's see if they can get slow on already. They can chase.
Oh, hello. Oh, the 4-man slow, actually. It looks like Prey Seeker, actually, from Meteos. Just a bit of vision to follow. Nobody can follow up with that Winter's Bite. Back and forth. Go the skill shots. Good dodges. I'd say Coast comes out the worst for the wear there on that one with the HP bars. So Cloud9 gets a little bit of freedom in their movement here, and they're going to have to suspect that they should watch their walking as they get back into their lower part of the jungle. So deep wards and probably that 2v1 start.
Probably. Coast do take the opportunity to mirror the wards as well. Now, everybody should be expecting these placements for the wards, though. These are the most common level 1 placements of the trinket wards. So we'll see how each team works around it. Cloud9 already just heading up top. And Balls, as we said, starting up for the Wraith camp. 1 minute, 20 seconds. You can start spamming saplings, and all the babies will instantly explode.
Interesting warding decision on both sides. You can see Coast warded the gate and the bottom, but C9 warded the blue, which kind of prevents the gate from being used to get into lane and dodge that bottom one. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, as long as you ward all of the crossroads,
right,
then you will be alerted. Now,
gotta find it.
They did see the Coast dual lane coming into lane, but a little bit too late here. They don't really feel like calling the swap and jumping down to the bottom lane because you lose a bit too much time in transition. This does mean that Balls, having started that Wraith camp, will have the experience advantage once he teleports into lane versus Chris. However, Chris will have that teleport cooldown at his disposal.
So the matchup goes down. Chris is pretty good in the 1v1 situations. We can always see him be pretty tricky and slippery when the ganks come down. So we'll see if he can actually take Balls out in that safe Maokai pick in the lane.
Yeah, safe is the key word there. Maokai doesn't really have any problems versus Gnar. Neither of those guys have solo kill pressure on each other. If the junglers come to visit, then that does change. But right now, Ball's sitting on 5 health potions and summoners available, so he should be able to at least get out of this one with his life. Maybe not Flash.
Oop. Oh, Flash goes down. Good proc as well. Get a little bit hyper onto Chris. And the damage trade looks like in Ball's favor, though. Definitely has more HP to start this one off. Also hitting that level 3. We'll watch for Impaler to return back down to this lane. Gnar now, just a little too late.
Yeah, the goal here with Maokai, you know, when you start a camp like that, since you can buy 5 health potions after it, is just to stay in lane, keep chugging potions until your teleport comes back off cooldown. It is the reduced teleport cooldown to his turret, so it's not that difficult to do, and he should just be able to continue farming fairly easily here under the turret.
It's like Meteos using a bit of that knowledge of seeing Impaler in the bottom lane. Feels safe to take that little scuttle crab and almost finds Impaler in his jungle. Man, Cloud gets popped up, but no more crowd control to follow from Cloud9 in the mid lane. But he knows it's going to be dangerous now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you pop the flash of the Maokai down in bottom lane, now generally you want to return to the lanes where you do pop the flashes, but that lane a bit less scary for balls as opposed to this mid lane here, because Zed is always threatening to all in. So we probably will see a return from Meteos around the mid lane area. And I'm really going to watch if ManCloud gets any support from Impaler as far as warding around mid goes, because Syndra, without the flash, even though she has exhaust, could easily be taken out with a second Rek'Sai gank. Remember, Meteos did not use his flash, so he's got flash unburrow ready for a repeat game.
Yeah, well, Impaler should definitely consider that aggression will come into the mid lane with High's latest picks being on the Kassadin and the Zed. We've seen his aggression go up a bit more, even though he said he played careful, but he's kind of bringing it back to the old days. He's getting himself kills, getting back into that split push factor for the team as well.
Yeah, that's why I think this was such a great pick for Cloud9. You know, they waited all the way till their last pick. They see the matchup coming.
That's true.
Coast did not take it away. Meteos has to pop his Raptor and give away his pink ward. And Impaler has the information advantage. So we'll see if he's able to get anything out of it. But yeah, as we said, obviously both junglers know a lot of focus on the mid lane here since they popped Syndra's flash.
Clear. There's another flash.
Meteos still has his flash, by the way. And they've defended the pink ward.
So it's like Flash Wars early game. Balls got blown. Now they got ManClouds and Impalers. So C9 up by 1. We'll see if the kills will start anytime soon with all these flashes being down. We're just 6 minutes in, and everything's been pretty quiet with just the junglers kind of peeking out here and there.
Yeah, the old standard lane, since they Coastal were able to get up to the top lane with just the standard lane matchup, it's going to be a bit calmer. The other thing is that since Meteos left a tunnel by that pink ward, even though Coast know it's there, it's really, really dangerous to go clear that pink ward because not only will Meteos be able to use the existing tunnel, but he can recast and he has flash. So shouldn't be cleared anytime soon. And we already see him returning to that mid lane.
Well, if this is anything like the first game in Week 3, it was only 6 kills to 4, so it may be a slow one here. These guys are definitely playing safe mode for the beginning of the matchup. High 52 to 45 in the mid lane, but ManCloud's looking to gather up these minions as they crash into his turret. Meteos was there to make sure nothing was going to happen to High as he backs as well. We'll see him now starting to come back, maybe get a roam on as he's just hit level 6.
All right, so Jarvan, once he gets level 6, the gank becomes a lot more powerful from Impaler. And even though Rek'Sai gets mobility with her level 6, it doesn't give her any more combat effectiveness, even if they do get a counter gank off. So we are approaching the point in the game where we're going to start to see some action. Whenever the junglers do hit level 6. That is an impressive vote. I like how the Cloud9 members keep it just under 90 as well, so you don't get the curse.
The curse of the over 90. It's a real thing. The struggle is real. Meteos approaching mid again. The read here, because of the wards they've placed, he's pretty much piggybacking on High because Impaler is doing the same to ManCloud, so great positioning. They may come up big here if High can actually dodge out the ultimate of ManCloud. It's going to be a tricky hit once they start the fight. Sheep is also joined in. Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because Coast have actually sent their duo down bottom, so Sheep's starting to roam already. To try and get back some vision control down here, because with Impaler having flashed down, Meteos was able to get into their jungle and get that deep ward in on the red buff. So he's got a little bit more intel on where he's going to be. Also, Coast were able to swap away from Corki post 6.
Yeah.
Now that the Sheen plus the Rockets are coming in.
That helps
from
quite a bit
Sneaky.
as well.
It also helps you with taking down turrets, though. So Sneaky could just fire off rockets, get Sheen-empowered auto attacks onto the turret if he really wants it.
Chris is doing his damnedest to get him away from the turret. This is also going to give Mash a bit of an easier time, 70 to 55 from the result of those AD carries and supports matching up in the lane. So he's going to try to get some free farm down here, and that was why we saw Sheep in the mid lane as well, trying to rotate down. We'll see if they can start to equal things up. Dragon may be in the near future, as we do have ultimates now around the map.
They finally take down the pink ward. Get 2 for their troubles. High, though, is taking this opportunity. You see a sneaky little move there from High. While they take out Cloud9 jungle vision on the bottom side, he places wards in the entire blue side of this jungle. So Cloud9, they take every opportunity. This is why we always talk about the layers of vision from Cloud9. They set down one layer,
it's like
and
an
even
onion.
if you take it out, yeah, they're able to get some in another area on the map. And then they fight in that area. So Cloud9 are probably going to be trending towards this top side of the map still, since that's where they've been able to put all of their vision. Meanwhile, though, Coast, they took away the blue buff. They also dropped a lot of vision of their own. Balls has to play a lot more safe in the bottom lane.
Right.
Because Impaler's still hovering around.
Coast took that blue buff, but like you said, Kobe, they ward it before they're going to take it, and that's exactly where Cloud9 is going, is for Coast Blue. High set those wards up previously, and they're able to grab what they want, probably trading and mirroring these bottom tier turrets for the top tier here.
Yeah,
We'll see if they
basically
can damage it.
the only difference so far in this game, 10 minutes into this game.
Ooh, hello, Lemonation
Lemonade.
under the turret. Ooh, Summoner heal. Thanks, Sneaky, says Lemon on the way out.
So they're just not respecting Chris right there. No more minions left, and Chris is able to get a
Man.
good stun for 2 summoners earned. But the main difference up until this point was the CS difference of the AD carries. And just in the laning phase, Lemonation and Sneaky were able to bully Mash and Sheep a bit. Now, though, with Chris delaying them up top, not only did he get summoner spells, he also delayed them. So 3 members lost time on the map, and Coast are able to grab a dragon for their trouble. So that play by Chris, although he wasn't able to grab any kills, you always got to think about the map pressure that you lose when people are sustaining damage like that.
It was really nice. He has really been a bright spot for Coast in the past. Been able to pull out some big plays and also draw just a lot of attention. Be a nuisance, cause chaos for the other team, and that usually results in your team getting a little bit more, being able to work the map. Now he's got some freedom in the top lane. I don't think he'll have too much alone time with this turret. He's going to back. He knows he doesn't. So the map's about to pan out. We got first dragon taken by Coast, so we'll be waiting for a little bit of action in the bottom lane to happen there. And no real spikes just yet. It's going to be off picks of Cloud9 if they can get them. I guess the same thing for Coast. Sheep roaming now. We're going to have Mash going to the bottom lane by himself.
Yep, they want to swap back for the 2 versus 2 here. Graves not going to have too hard of a time. He's got plenty of flat attack damage to work with for his burst, and both junglers have been called down to the bottom side with the recent switch. Usually, as soon as you call that switch, you want to try and take advantage before the supports are able to set up their wards, because the top laners don't bring a lot of wards this early in the game before they upgrade their yellow trinket.
Right.
So there's usually a lack of vision right when the swap happens, but both supports getting out a decent amount of vision as soon as they get down here, so jungler job's a bit more difficult. Coast now going to be able to freeze, and that should call Cloud9 over to the mid lane. They cannot afford to have their duo zoned out. Right. They need to have some pressure on the map. So since they do not want to extend far into the fog of war down bottom, pressure mid lane here, see if they can get a turret for their troubles and make Coast pay for this freeze.
That's some good damage there just from a Seeker's arm guard. Lemonation getting caught up.
She's going all in.
Going very hard because Chris is coming in from the top. His Gnar is just wearing out, but they're able to take down Lemon. That's first blood now, 12.5 minutes in. They trade back onto Impaler, but the eyes of Cloud9 are still looking for a fight. ManCloud gets popped up, now returns. Here comes the cavalry of Cloud9. Sneaky's able to help pick one up. Balls is actually going to secure that kill. Wow, what a fight. They're actually able to take ManCloud and Impaler out for just Lemon.
Yeah, two for one here for Cloud9. That means that they definitely will be able to get that mid turret here. Well, they'll definitely be able to pressure it, not get it. Just kidding.
Joke.
I want to take another look at that, though, because that was a really weird initiation from Coast. They knew their AD carry was bottom lane. They had Match Me holding that freeze, and then they initiated mid with 4 members on 5, calling their teleport as well. So, curious initiation there from Coast. And Cloud9 will be able to get a decent amount of damage.
Good timing on the Gnar. A little short for what they're able to use it for, but the kill comes up. I said it did go over to Man Cloud. That's who they are going to need it on if they want him to carry the game. Meteos, we see cleaning up. Now we'll get a check on this.
So let's look at this one. You can clearly see all of the Cloud9 members are already mid, so Coast know that they're outnumbered here. I guess they really just wanted to run with Chris's Mega Gnar while he still had it. You can see as he was teleporting in, Mega Gnar was almost out.
Right.
So it seems like a case of Coast trying to force the issue just because they want to work with Mega Gnar, but they didn't have their AD carry in place, and they definitely paid the price right there with mid lane pressure as well as 2 kills. So that's sometimes the difficulty that does come with still using Gnar. Sometimes it even forces you to play over-aggressive just because you really want to get all you can out of the ultimate.
Well, they had themselves a bit of cushion room. The game is still very close, but Cloud9 always uses advantages very, very well, and if they get the smallest one, they can run away with it. So Coast has to be careful now with 1:30 on Dragon. They got to make sure that vision is theirs. Spikes coming out on both sides, but with that Triforce finished here, I don't know how close Mash is at the moment for his Infinity Edge, but it's going to be big. It also could be a level 11 high here if he's able to level up in this 2v1.
As you go down the line, you can see all the key first items for Cloud9 done.
Right.
Jungler's got Upgrade plus Sightstone. We got Blade of the Ruin King and Trinity Force. Maokai's Rod of the Ages is important that he got it this early, but it's not a spike yet because it takes a while to build up. But Cloud9 are really good at working around the Trinity Force for Corki, as we've seen so many times. They've even fed blue buff over to him.
Oh yeah.
Which not only, you know, the mana, but also cooldown reduction helps with his ultimate as well. So he can just spam out rockets.
Things seem like they're getting a little tight here for Coast. Meteos already starting to clear out the Raptor. That means Impaler loses a bit of vision to clear. And they also have 4 pink wards in their inventory for Cloud9, so they're ready to set up and take control.
Coast have to be really, really worried right now. They're giving up a lot on the map. The split push has already been called by Cloud9. They have High doing work down bottom while this is all taking place mid. So the blue buff Corki at 16 minutes is such a huge amount of pressure mid that it drew everyone from Coast up to the mid lane. And this Zed split push is really easy for High to execute. They've also been able to lay really deep wards in that red side jungle. So Cloud9 just got a whole bunch off the map pressure without seemingly having to do much at all there. Just really good allocation of champions here in the mid game for Cloud9.
And Meteos literally has a subway system all around his jungle. Just a quick path everywhere he wants to go, just dipping in and out of tunnels whenever he needs to get there. Coast clearing them slowly, but they have to remember that's a ultimate for Meteos to get right into the fight if he needs to back and get back in as well. Dragon time, Kobe. See what happens.
So Balls is pushing top side. He does not have teleport. I suspect that Cloud9 will just trade this dragon for mid turret damage and top turret damage. Because they're outnumbered, their top laner can't join. They might be able to get away with it as well. Yep, good trade. Very good trade here for Cloud9. This does, it starts to be a worry though. This is number 2 for Coast. I don't think Cloud9 are worried about giving up those mid-game team fights though, because they're getting so far ahead in gold with these early turrets that they're taking down.
That was huge. It's 3 turrets. That's a gigantic burst of gold.
Yeah, even though the dragon buff starts to stack up on you and you're like, oh, what about, you know, getting to number 5 really quickly?
Right.
The huge amount of gold means that they will easily win the mid-game team fights here.
Right.
So Cloud9 just have so much more money to work with that they shouldn't really have to worry about, you know, Dragon number 3 or 4 anytime soon, because they can easily set up for it. They know what the timer is, or they can easily guess what the timer is and be in place ahead of time.
It's a sad dragon now, Kobe. He protects. He protects no gold.
He does not. He has no horde. That's why he's a bit weaker now as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, the other thing I just want to touch on while we're talking about, you know, Dragon and jungler things is the Skirmishers upgrade. from Impaler. I'm a huge fan, or I was a huge fan of it.
Oh, do
until
tell.
now you have to pay. On live, you have to pay money to switch.
Isn't that always the reason?
Yeah, pay money. That's usually the reasons why I stopped doing things. Too much money. But currently, the patch that they're playing on Tournament Realm right now, it's free. So you can start with Trailblazer and then go into Skirmishers, which is my favorite smite for the late game. I feel like the 20% damage reduction is really underrated.
Yeah.
And on Jarvan, who locks someone in Cataclysm with it, he can really take advantage of that 6 seconds of 20% damage reduction. It's also really good against assassins like Zed in the late game. As we see them collapse on coast. Looks like the teleport will come in as well.
Oh boy, this could be messy. Good focus on the high. They could lose one as they start to go for Mash Me. This is going to be the full chase. Glacial Fissure comes out. The binding from Sheep, but he can only do so much for Mash. And he goes down, but they will be able to drop high. So the 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, an interesting split right now because Coast are still in between. Cloud9 have them completely encircled. But it was a 1-for-1, and they lost High, who is one of the strongest members of Cloud9 right now.
That's the thing, though. Coast doesn't care if they're encircled. They will fight one side of that. Right now, going in, the Soul Shackle Meteos. He's going to go down as well. Chris is about to Mega Gnar. Cloud9 cannot take the rest of this fight. He's going to fly over the wall. Sneaky gets hit. He does not get scattered for long enough, and they're able to turn around. Boss is going to be able to disengage this one, but Cloud9, they have to repair this.
Yeah, a little bit uncoordinated with their chase to the top. And it's a really good job by Coast, updating each other on the whereabouts of every member of Cloud9. Even though, you know, it looked pretty bad for Coast because their teleporter was caught initially. Really good job turning on the isolated members.
You can say that
split up a little bit too much.
The same thing for Cloud9 too. It looked pretty bad, but they're still up just about 3,000 gold, still up in turrets. Coast, even though this fight looked nice, they weren't able to get much.
And remember, High had already used his shadow, so he's trying to wait for the cooldown to come back up right now. Has to try and dodge around with his ultimate.
Oh, he has to.
But he gets blasted, and the summoner's down. So that might hurt the split push a little bit. As you said, though, they're still comfortably in the lead because of all the turrets that they got, trading for dragons and keeping up the side lane pressure that they still should be able to handle this mid-game and dictate the next dragon fight.
He's back down to the bottom lane. Basically, nobody that can stop / catch High right now on Zed. He can freely roam down there and cause trouble. Looks like they will also try to get ManCloud pushing into that top lane. He's got some gold to spend. Hopefully he can start making an impact on the game. He's got to find a target that he can take out because fights are going to be getting harder and harder for Coast.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up right now because this is where Coast have to take advantage of pockets of Fog of War. They have the Morgana and the Syndra that we mentioned in Champ Select with really long stuns that you have the potential to pick someone off when they're roaming around the jungle here trying to place deep wards. If Coast are prepared and they can work around their true sight, they can easily pick somebody off with either of those really long skill shots.
Just a line of members right now of Cloud9 from mid all the way to the bottom lane. They almost own just behind Dragon. Looks like Coast doesn't want to take that fight. They're just gaining the vision to make sure that they don't get split pushed too hard here.
Yeah, a full minute in advance. Cloud9 are already trying to gain sight around the Dragon because they don't want to let the chain keep going for Coast. They want to contest number 3. Plus, added benefit of making High split push a lot safer in the bottom lane.
That's right, number 3, but it's not 5, so you're all right. A little bit of time. 22 minutes on the clock. Still quite a slow game, only at 3-3 here. And still looking for Coast to take down some turrets. They do stand to get quite a surge in gold if they can actually get a good fight with waves pushed up and grab these turrets. But right now, High, Balls, and even Sneaky's getting to the side lanes here to make that a really big problem. The split push is almost impossible for Coast to stop. And the poke, oh my word. Cloud9 says, get away from mid turret, thank you.
Yes, it's still Corky on the mid game with spamming blue buff here. Just has so much presence in the mid lane. And Cloud9 go right back to their 1-3-1. High going to be pressuring bottom lane. Balls with the fully stacked now Rod of Ages. Or no, one more stack left to go. Has plenty of AP.
Oh, that was a funny ward. Good Lord, Sneaky hitting all the shots. BF Sword after that Triforce doesn't even have his boots finished. He just went right for the damage so they can keep hitting.
Yeah. It'll also mean that they can take turrets really
yep.
quickly as well once they get up to them. So there's number 3. As we said, so much gold that Cloud9 will have an easy time taking this.
So number 3 is stopped. Cloud9 gets what they want, the timer as well. And like I said, that early advantage that Cloud9 had was very small, but they've been working it methodically. Now 4,000 gold in the lead, and it looks like they'll be able to pretty much just put the stamp on this one slowly from lane to lane, if it goes as it does now.
Yeah.
Like we said, Coast needs, like you said, to create those pockets of fog of war, use Sheep, use ManCloud, get some of these picks.
And currently, they do have fairly good control over their blue buff side of the jungle, which does lead up to Baron. So if they can try and, you know, pick Cloud9, while Cloud9 try and get a little bit of Baron vision, then that could be an opening for Coast to get back in this. Try and get one of those long-range CCs to land. But so far, Cloud9 have just not given them the opportunity. Every time they go in ward, it's Lemon plus Meteos, so they're much safer. And they also have the threat of High nearby. Just very good classic team play here from Cloud9 so far in the mid-game.
Like the double Oracle's lens over here from Coast. Definitely want to keep the vision out of their side of the jungle.
Yeah. Man, this Cloud9 also have 2 of the strongest auras in the game already, with the Frozen Heart as well as the Aegis of the Legion. So their team fight, even if Coast are able to stop the split push from Cloud9 and force them to group, is really, really hard to overcome. So again, probably just comes back to the necessity of a pick here for Coast. Paul does have teleport up once again, so both top laners can join if a skirmish does break out.
Slow moving from Chris. He's not making too much of an impact right now in that bottom lane. The teleport, however, could be what makes or breaks what happens next. And that's what I'm watching from these guys. Both of them can stop each other's ult. That if Chris is gnawing out, he can actually throw balls around, but I don't know if it's going to be able to happen. They actually back off from each other because they do sense that there's going to be a teleport. Baron is going down, and Cloud9 is going to be able to take this one right under the nose of Coast.
All right, this is going to be a team fight for sure. Cloud9 have to peel off of it. Oh, binding doesn't land, so they don't force it quite yet.
Oh, but High forces it. He goes flying in onto Chris. That's
Still
only going to be
taking
half
Baron
HP. Chris not gnawing out just yet, so they can't really approach this fight. And Paler definitely does not want to jump in. He only throws a ward in for the cause. And Coast backs up, but they are grabbing Cloud9's attention and pretty much all they want right now. Chris, remember, now starting the fight, half HP, and that's what he's going to have from Gnar form on. And Paler goes in, flashes out to collect the team, but nobody can start attacking. Balls takes down Impaler, and it does not look like Coast is going to be able to come up on this fight. ManCloud, Zhonya's, the team's going to have to watch as they disengage. And Cloud9 finally finds a fight to gain some more ground in the game.
Yeah, they don't have to continue with the split push. They force the fight by burning both teleports into the Baron pit, and then just all the item spikes that Cloud9 have right now, using the extra gold. Double auras, they're easily able to pull out the team fight victory, and since they already have pink ward vision on Baron, that will be Baron buff for Cloud9.
It was kind of one of the last straws. Cloud9 was like, all right, if we force the Baron, they're going to be forced to fight us. We just need them to approach. Boom! There's another one coming up for Sneaky. Baron goes over to Cloud9, and they start taking control of this one. Nice. Don't think it's going to be too much longer before they get into the base. Now with Baron, they're going to be able to work the split push that much stronger, and we'll see this once again.
And let's talk about, remember the line damage that we talked about for Elimination? The jungle corridors with Braum? They force the fight right here, and he gets everybody on this slow field, so Mash is walking back and forth on the slow field. AD carry doesn't get to do any damage, and ManCloud is on the other side of the Braum ultimate from the rest of the team. So he gets singled out very easily. Meteos not hesitating to jump right in. And a very, very clean game here for Cloud9. Now it's just the siege and watching those skill shots as they try and make use of Baron buff.
Sheep doing what he can, trying at least to get some bindings on the flank. Might be a dive here soon from Cloud9. They don't have the waves really pushed up. They have high on the side, so he joins in the middle. Now they're just going to be waiting for the wave. A little bit of a stalemate, Kobe.
Yeah, Syndra's wave clear is fairly decent. He's also got Graves backing him up. ManCloud, that is. Actually, he does not. Graves is a little sneaky mission down here, down bottom, taking the opportunity. Cloud9 should press in on this turret while they see Mashme not there.
Actually saw High go towards the top lane, and he turned immediately when they saw Mashme to the bottom.
Yeah.
He's already trying to flank this one. Cloud9 acted immediately on seeing Mashme in the bottom lane.
All right. He's probably going to want to get back before they give up the inhibitor turret, though. Cloud9 are pressing in very quickly.
He did stop his back. Cloud9 actually saw that as well, and they are going to go flying in. It's not going to be Mashme appropriate or in range for this fight. They are just completely demolishing Coast inside their base. Chris now in the eyes of the team. He gnars out as Mash approaches.
Hey!
Is it going to be enough? Lemon Nation gets the summoner heal from Sneaky to save his life. And Cloud9 keeps everybody as they almost ace Coast inside the base. They're looking for the Nexus turrets.
Yep. They definitely are. It looks like Mashme has joined the party now, but it's a little bit too late here.
A little too late indeed. They were trying to get the outer lane pressure, but at what cost? On Nexus turret, at least they're able to get pushed off on this one now. Looks like Chris, a little bit more damage as he deters them, but he does not want to do it with his life. They're able to push Cloud9 off finally, but that was a lot of ground gained there in just one fell swoop.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen. Mid-game, really strong team fighting team here from Cloud9 press in, and you don't have your AD carry with you. So Cloud9, they pick up the Dragon on the exit path. Now, they will probably give up at least some damage on their mid turret for this, but that is just one outer turret in exchange for inhibitor, inhibitor turret, plus Dragon, and a huge chunk of farm for High as well in the top lane. Coast trying to keep up the pressure, but even 4 members of Cloud9 should be able to defend this. They have got supers coming out of the mid lane.
Yeah.
So Coast are only able to grab 1 turret for global gold. And there's nothing left on the map for them to even take. So really all they have to do now is just sit inside their base and contemplate how poor they are. All right, media. This is the 5 versus 4, which you definitely expect if the AD carry is not there. Graves at this point is a huge part of the DPS from Team Coast. So Cloud9, very, very good job just seeing that Mashme his bottom lane and running right past the turret.
That was actually a really good ultimate by Impaler to catch 3, which eventually killed him, but if Mashme was standing outside that Cataclysm, he would have had a lot of time for free DPS. Could have changed some minds about that fight. I don't know, Cloud9 may be too big at this point in the game. We see High now 3 items in, a Hex Drinker as well on top of Moby Boots. Sneaky's building up his own Blade of the Rune King to get a little bit of peel if Chris can even get to the back line on this one. So they're able to pretty much buy and mitigate for every member on the Team Coast.
Man, yeah, I mean, Coast now, you really got to worry about the morale of the team, as we said before. A game like this, now, when your back's against the wall, you're in 10th place. There are 2 routes you can go. You know, you can become more risk-loving and just start trying crazy strategies because you feel like you don't have anything to lose, or you can just try and play extremely safe and hope that you can get wins against lower teams. You can't really do that against Cloud9, though.
Right.
If they want to pull off a win against Cloud9, they had to play something really risky, try and go with something new. But Cloud9 have just done the same old, and now they're pushing it on the base. Cleanup duty.
Oh, it's going to be the 1v1 of the mid laners, but now everybody's in the fight together. ManCloud actually gets out of that one nicely.
Yeah.
Nice disengage.
Now, he actually Zanya'd much better this time around.
Yep.
You saw the first Zanyas in the initial dive. He actually did it right after High got the death mark on him. So as soon as the Zanya stasis wore off, the death mark still popped, and he still got the damage. But this time, he gets it off before the death mark lands, so he was able to survive. It's a very small win, though, as their entire base is gone.
Yeah, you can only do it once, and then it takes a little bit to cool down, Kobe. And that's going to be enough of a window for Cloud9 to make the move again. They take down Chris. He's the tank. He's the biggest one, even out of Gnar form. And it looks like it's going to be 1 Nexus turret left. Cloud9 coming up strong in just under 35 minutes here against Coast in Week 6. they are going to be able to take down the Nexus. Nicely done. Cloud9 takes down Coast.
Yeah, very well done by Cloud9. Slow and steady. Not even that slow, actually, just steady. Steady march towards the Nexus.
It was a steady indeed. Getting the lane matchup, I don't think helped Coast that much with the difference that came out of that between Sneaky and between Match. There was about 20 CS in that lane, and then once they swapped back, it just allowed Cloud9 to get a little bit of the roam on, start taking all the vision that they needed. Like you were saying, they'll always place a surplus amount of wards in a spot on the map because something's about to happen there for Cloud9.
Yeah, they play the lane swap really well. They transitioned into their quirky mid with Trinity Force and blue buff spam, as well as the side lane push from Zed. This is really classic Cloud9 strategy, and Coast really just let them run right to it, kind of rolled over for it. They tried to make some early plays. Impaler, blowing a flash early, but that's really about it.
So how do you approach that? We see a lot of people picking up the Morganas, the Threshes, the whatever can catch you in transition, and now Cloud9's trying to bring back out the split push on one of their top champions. Does just banning out Zed stop that for Cloud9?
So that's the strategy I think is most favorable versus Cloud9, is still targeting high and forcing him onto something else. Something that he's more uncomfortable on because, as everyone knows, he is the main shot caller. But they've even said that if he does have a bad laning phase, if he starts to get pressured really hard early, then someone else takes over. Usually Meteos will start taking over as, High has to worry more about his own individual play. So that's, if I'm looking at Cloud9, this team, that's usually where I look to attack. And that starts in pick spans, but also into the beginning of the game. You can see Meteos went there really early. He freed up High. High, not only did he get Zed, but he also got an early Rek'Sai gank to blow Syndra's flash. So,
That's true.
So much control for Cloud9 this whole game.
That's true. It's kind of, you look at it and it's kind of like one of those, we tried something early because Impaler did go to the bottom lane. They tried to gank Balls, who we already knew was going to be a tough gank on Maokai. Balls is already a tough gank.
And has 5 potions to sustain up afterwards.
He has 5 potions because he already did a camp. And then, after losing that, that's when Meteos took control. Pretty much at that point, he said, all right, I see where Impaler is, went into Impaler's jungle, blew his flash, blew ManCloud's flash, and big ups to Meteos in the early part of this game because he did free up a lot of pressure for Cloud9. He's been making the early game really easy for them. Right now, we are going to send it down to the stage where Jat's standing by on the red side.
Thank you very much, guys. And I am with Sneaky of the victorious Cloud9, who just took down Coast. Now, Sneaky, I'm going to say that's for you. The crowd and the game was a little bit subdued there. Was that expected against Coast? How do you feel about that game? Because you guys won quickly, but it was a little bit slow feeling.
I'd say it was a pretty clean game overall. Our strategy didn't really come with any issues in the game. I know personally I was just mid lane zoning people off and shooting rockets. That's my whole goal the entire game. So I think overall game plan went pretty well.
And you guys are now 6-1 in your last 7 games. It feels like every week either the casters or the fans are saying, Cloud9 is back. How are you feeling as far as Cloud9 returning to their former form?
Well, we actually had some pretty bad scrim days this week. I think we lost all of our scrims yesterday, so it was kind of rough. I think we're definitely getting better, though. We're improving every week. I've said it a few times. We put Charlie as the head pick ban now, so that's kind of helping us in scrims mainly. It just takes pressure off of Lemon and puts it onto Charlie.
Where else do you feel like you guys have been improving, at least in LCS, since you guys are 6-1 in the last 7?
I would say just overall, our game plans aren't getting distorted by random plays. Like, we're not going around and killing ourselves like we did for the first 2 weeks. So it's just becoming more clean like we've been normally playing like for the past 2 years.
Yeah, clean play is always a benefit. You guys also face WinterFox tomorrow. Final question, what are your thoughts on that team?
They're pretty strong. They have Imagine now for their support instead of Glebe. I don't know. They have a lot of Koreans in their team, so I don't really know how communication works. But they're pretty strong, so we'll have to prepare a lot for them.
Yeah, I actually hear they play in Korean now, and Alltech just has to adapt to things. How do you think you'd fare in a situation where you can't hear what the rest of your team is saying?
I feel it could be pretty hard because I sometimes kind of have to ask what we want to do, or I come up with a plan myself sometimes. So it would be really hard to be with a team that can't actually speak the same language, because I can't do anything. I just kind of sit back and maybe they communicate with me with pings. So I don't really know. It'd be really hard.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sneaky. Good luck tomorrow against Winter Fox. And for now, let's hand it over to Dash and Freak at the Telestrator.
Thank you, Jat. And what I want to take a look at with this game is the fact that it was a slow game. And in these slow-paced games, we're given the opportunity to see how team decision-making plays a large role in wins and losses over individual mechanics and, like, lane leads and things like that.
Of course. And I do want to say that, like, individual skill does have a place in League of Legends, and the reason Team Coast is in 10th place right now is not because their individual skill is so much worse than Cloud9. They're close. The problem is that, yes, the shot calling, the fact that everyone on C9 knows what to do kind of at all times is actually really important in a game of League of Legends, especially where it slows down. Strategic play makes the most sense.
Right, so I do want to pull up our replay for this segment. We're going to get that up on the screen. And basically, this isn't, our normal team fight replay where you're going to see a bunch of action, but yet it is the decider of the game.
Right. This was when the game was like, oh my God, it's a 4,000 gold lead. This is probably going to be over if C9 plays like this. So vision control is nice, and vision control is important, but what's more important than that is actually minion wave control. I want you guys to look at the minimap primarily. So you got Maokai over here in the top lane, and notice how far past the river he is. He is well past, so he is pressuring the turret right now, right this second. The mid lane, basically 3 members of C9. Brahm's kind of close by, he can rejoin them, whatever. Mid lane's getting pressured because ranged champions, 80 carries, pressure turrets down. And then High is down here in the long lane because, well, Maokai can TP into Dragon, so he's on the other side of the map. And then Zed is just here because he doesn't have teleport. Like, that's basically the reason. He's the same champion. So let's roll the clip, and you're going to see what happens because these turrets are under pressure. And Coast think, oh, we've got vision control. Oh, we can make this play. We've got a ward over the wall. We're here. We've got some sweepers. We can take a Dragon. But they didn't get their minion waves under control. So Sneaky and Medius are knocking down the mid lane. No one's reacting. Balls of the top lane, knocking down a turret. Chris left bot and let High go push if he wants to. Oh, look, the turret's under pressure, and the team's like, oh, crap, mid's getting hit, guys, gotta chase Sneaky.
Yep,
but they forgot High's down bottom. There's no one TPing in for balls. Here's turret number 2 right there. They've still forgot High is bottom, by the way. That turret's dead. Now Impaler runs over. Now Graves and Jarvan are like, guys, bot lane's getting hit. Oh, crap, right, High's there the whole time. And they're not having the foresight. And this is not necessarily shot calling. It can be if you are the best player ever and you're watching all 3 lanes at all times and micromanaging your team like you're playing StarCraft. You could do that, but that's silly. You shouldn't be having to do this. This is not High's job. It's not Lemon's job. It's no one's job. It's the fact that everyone on Cloud9 is like, oh, okay, they're Dragon. Cool, I can push my turret in.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the same thing should be for Mash. Same thing for B for Impaler. Same thing should be for Chris is, hey, keep your darn lane under control and don't rotate out and give away a free turret.
Yep, 1, 2, 3 turrets just like that in 15 seconds. And you're not afraid to give up those early dragons when you can effectively cover the statistical gain of the dragon with golden items.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you can talk about the value of Dragon 1 in gold value, and it's worth less than a turret early game. Super late on the game when you've got like a 600 AP Cassiopeia, okay, sure, it's probably worth more than an outer turret getting Dragon 1. Let her carry your game for you with that buff. But Dragon 2 especially has 0 combat effectiveness. There are actually so few games where you actually poke down a turret. You kill turrets because you out-rotate or because you chunk them out and push. Like that.
Yeah, you want to fight prior.
Exactly. Very, very rarely does Dragon 2 actually have an impact on the game whatsoever. The game wasn't shaping up as this big control fest where Dragon 5 was going to be a thing. There was just no reason to Dragon. Coast made the wrong call. No one kept up with their minion waves. And hey, look, C9 got 3 turrets and 2,000 gold for it, and shockingly, they're winning now.
Yeah, it's really incredible how elementary and minor things like that can affect a game of League of Legends. Well, we are going to go AFK for 3.5, but when we return, Team 8 will look for a rematch revenge when they face off against Team Impulse. We'll be right back.
We're going to go tee up our first match. That is Team Coast versus Cloud9. Chris is coming in from the top. His Gnar is just wearing out, but they're able to take down Lemon. That's first blood now, 12.5 minutes in. Taylor goes in, flashes out to collect the team, but nobody can start attacking. Balls takes down Impaler. They are going to go flying in. It's not going to be match-me appropriate or in range for this fight. They are just completely demolishing Coast inside their base. Nicely done. Cloud9 takes down Coast.